Morning. Can everybody hear me in the back? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I was told to use my outside voice, so I'm going to try my best to use it out here today. It's been about 5 years since I got a chance to use my outside voice, since I retired, but I'll see how it goes today. I'd first like to start by recognizing the following individuals for being here today. Our Department Commandant, Bonnie Holden. It's a pleasure having you and a pleasure meeting you today as well. Security Force Bangers Color Guard and Rifle Detail, led by Staff Sergeant Pudsky. I appreciate it, officer, and thank you very much for helping me on pronouncing your name. It's a lot harder than Smith. I would especially like to thank the Commandant of the Pierce County Detachment of the Marine Corps League, Commandant Charles Ames, for the opportunity to join all of you today. And remember to the 32 Marines that lost their lives some 30 years ago. Lastly, I'd like to thank the members of the fallen for obliging me by letting me stand before you today for the next 10 minutes or so. So when I was extended the honor to speak with you today, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to say. I was actually awestruck by the opportunity to be part of a service that's been held almost twice as long as I've been alive. So at first I thought, well, I've been a Washingtonian since I was in diapers, so maybe I'll talk about a fellow Washingtonian, Private Leslie Simmons from Kalama, Washington, who was actually just hitching a ride on the flight for the holidays to go back and see his family that fateful December night. But then I thought maybe, as a fellow Marine, I would talk about the fellowship and camaraderie that we all share as Marines. Whether you're from Seattle, Washington, or from Mobile, Alabama, whether you're on active duty or you're retired, whether in life or death, Marines share camaraderie. Or maybe as an aviator, I would talk about the dangers of aviation and how in more than 2 decades of service, I've unfortunately lost more friends to aviation than I have to enemy fire. But actually, it was a few days ago, I was getting my hair cut, and somehow military service came up, and I can't remember the details. It might have been where I asked if I can get a military discount for the haircut. It might have been that I asked to get a high reg, even though I have like 5 or 6 hairs left on the top of my head. But the top circled around something to the effect of, did I have one of those safe military jobs, or was it an experience that was forged in the heat of battle? Something to the effect of, was I entrenched with clerical duties, or was it something out of the movie 300, or somewhere in between? And specifically today, when we're talking about this memorial, maybe kind of think about the risks that all of us veterans have taken, and what that actually means. And I'm not just talking about the risks that has to do with Bella Wood, or Iwo Jima, or the Chosin Reservoir, or Da Nang, Battle of Fallujah, or the Battle of Marja in Afghanistan. I'm not talking about those types of risks. I'm talking about the day-to-day risks we take as veterans since we first decided to raise our right hand to accept the position to serve our nation. I'm talking about routine troop movements, such as the ones that flew on December 10th of 1946. Although I'm sure many of you are familiar with the reason why we're here today for this memorial, but if I may, I'd like to summarize the events for those that may not know what had happened back in 1946. So on the morning of December 10th in 1946, 6 Curtis Commandos, R5Cs, actually took off from El Toro, Marine Corps Air Station El Toro, in flight for 5.5 hours to go to Naval Air Station Sandpoint. And the reason why those 2 places are kind of special for me, as an aviator with F-18s, I actually started flying the F-18 at Miramar right after we moved from El Toro down to Miramar. As for Sandpoint, I didn't know Sandpoint as a naval air station. I knew it as a naval activity when I was a kid. My father retired from the Army, used to take us to the commissary and to the Navy Exchange. In fact, that's the place I bought my first cassette tape, Run DMC. If anybody wants to hear it, I think I still have it in my car. So they actually, on that flight, going from San Diego up to here in Seattle, encountered a lot of turbulence and actually very difficult weather. to the point at 4:13 p.m., Major Riley, the pilot of the aircraft in question, had radioed the CAA, which is now the FAA, and told him that he was flying on instruments at 9,000 feet with ice forming on the leading edge of his aircraft and the wings, and requested permission to fly above the clouds to get out of the icy conditions. When Major Riley failed to contact the CAA again, they became concerned. 4 of the aircraft returned back to Portland Airport without actually making it to Seattle. 1 of them actually did make it. The 6th one, the one that we're talking about today, didn't make it. So the next day, the Army, the Navy, and the Coast Guard got together with the intent of having a massive search for the aircraft. But unfortunately, the weather that had stopped the aircraft from arriving at Sandpoint stopped them from the search as well. Searches had got starts and fits that actually looking for the aircraft for the next 7 months or so. Unfortunately, nothing was found. Until Assistant Chief Ranger Bill Butler was hiking on his day off, had spotted the aircraft wreckage. This is about 7 months after the actual aircraft had taken off and didn't land at Sandpoint. In short, finally in August, after a very harrowing search for the aircraft at 10,500 feet, they found the nose cone of the aircraft that was crushed for the missing Curtiss C5 R5C with 11 Marines, the remains of 11 Marines inside. Now, many attempts were tried to retrieve the men's remains, but eventually it was deemed to be too risky for follow-on attempts. The Marines remain entombed on Mount Rainier to this day. And as you know, a memorial was held, and before leaving, the families decided to hold a memorial in August every year to honor the dead Marines, which we have to this day. This story should truly humble us, as they represent people, individuals. They represent brothers, husbands, sons, and friends. These were people that were woven into the fabric of communities across the nation. They were loved, they were mourned, and they were missed. I think about the deployments that we've had and the Marines that I've lost in combat, whether it was in combat or in routine operations. You watch them disappear out of the line of sight, knowing it may very well be the last time that you will see them. You hug them, you tell them that you love them. But unfortunately, this is a stark reality for many families in this country. A stark reality of the telegrams, the middle of the night phone calls, and the chaplain standing at the front door of the next of kin to tell them that their loved one has been killed. It is all too easy for those that have never suffered such losses to see the past holes that were left in the families and communities. It's simple human nature. As FDR once said, those that have longed such privileges as we enjoy forget in time that men have died to win them. So today, in honor of the 32 Marines still entombed on the frigid cliffs of Mount Rainier, those that raised their hands to go into harm's way for the service of their country, I ask you, please take the time to ask a veteran about their story, because I assure you that if they have ever set foot on the yellow footprints at Parris Island or San Diego, if they ever swam through the dirty Quigley in Quantico, or have donned any uniform in our nation's service, I promise you that they have a story to tell of how they stood ready to go into harm's way. And for those men and women around me today that currently stand, or have stood ready to protect our nation, I say, once more to the breach, dear friends, once more, because those that went before us stand watch at 10,000 feet, praying that we toe the line that they once towed. Let's not let them down.
Thank you, Major Newton.